Hi folks, it's me Michaela and welcome back to my channel. I am here today to finally see the reality of how I did with reading my 24 books in 2024. I have in fact been putting it off because I've been living in delusion and I've been happy with that, but I can't keep it hidden from myself for much longer. I need to face the truth and see how many of these books I have actually read. So I have my list that I made back at the end of 2023 of the 24 books I want to read in 2024. I did make a video halfway through the year doing a check-in, and things were not going well at that point. I had read 6 of the 24 books by the time it was June, and obviously June is halfway through the year and 6 is only a quarter of 24, so the numbers were not numbering the way they should have been numbering, but I feel like I did focus more on reading this TBR in the second half of the year. There were a few books where I either they weren't released yet or I didn't physically have them yet that I then ended up getting. I did also make a couple of vlogs near the end of 2024 of actually reading my TBR that kind of helped me achieve this because I was let me look at this list and actually read books on it. So, without further ado, let's get right into the books and if I read them. The first book I put on the list was Daydream by Hannah Grace, and I did end up reading this. I think I actually also made a reading vlog for this one because it was my most anticipated release of the year. Ended up being kind of disappointing for me, not gonna lie, but that doesn't matter because I did read it. I had by June already read Final Offer by Lauren Asher and Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Seanan McGuire, so the first 3 books on the list have been read. Fourth on the list was Us Against You by Fredrik Backman, which I have also read. Number 5 was The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. 2024 was not a year where I was reading much mystery, and I do want to kind of get back into reading more mystery. I have the first 2 Thursday Murder Club books and I have read them, and now the series is finished. I believe it is a completed 4-book series, so I should probably get on with reading it because I do really like the series. It's just I just haven't been in the mood to read mysteries much in 2024. I really was entering my romance era, so those were kind of taking over my life, but now I feel I'm starting to balance out again and pull back the reins on my obscenely high volume of romance reading. And it's not that I don't like it, it's just that I want to read a bit of everything, and so I felt like I was just reading way too much romance in comparison to other genres that I do also enjoy, so I want to be getting back to that. I then have The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I did read this. I read this in one of my actually reading my TBR videos, so that is a series that I have now finished because I have now come to realize that The Grandest Game is the first book in a new series and not the 5th book in the Inheritance Game series. Thank God for that, because as much as I really liked the trilogy, the first 3 books of the Inheritance Games, I just don't need any more Inheritance Games. That was enough. I was this was a fun story, and even by the end of the 3rd book, I was starting to get a little over it. I was kind of okay, this is kind of getting to enough. There's only so much you can do with teenagers who are billionaires and a mystery, I feel there's a limit, and I think Jennifer Lynn Barnes reached it for my personal capacity, and now I'm done. I then had Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and I have also read this, so we are doing well so far. That's 6 out of 7 read books. I then had Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I've also read this year. I'm nailing this now that I'm looking at this. Okay, I actually thought I did way worse with this list than I actually am now that I'm looking at it in reality. Why did I put this off for so long? Read Conversations with Friends, really liked it. I really like Sally Rooney's writing. I still think I like Normal People more than I liked Conversations with Friends. I did really enjoy both books, and I am planning on reading more Sally Rooney now in 2025. I then had Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I have also read Crying in H Mart in 2024. It was the first nonfiction I read this year. I then read 2 more memoirs in 2024, and I'm planning on trying to read more nonfiction this coming year because I I ended up really enjoying reading Crying in H Mart and the other memoirs that I read. Crying in H Mart was really like the catalyst of me being like, oh, I do actually kind of like nonfiction if I find the right nonfiction. I then have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I have also read. This was one of the last books I read this year. I ended up reading it in December. I think like just before Christmas, just after Christmas, one of those scenarios. I feel like you just lose track of time that time of year. But I did read Malibu Rising. I really liked it. I gave it a 4-star, but then upon review, when I was doing my monthly wrap up, decided I should give it a 4.5, and that is what I've settled on. It's not my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book because I think that probably is Daisy Jones and the Six. I would say of the 3 I read, it's like Daisy Jones and the Six, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then Malibu Rising. But I also feel like perhaps if I reread Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because I did read that quite a while ago now, maybe I wouldn't feel quite the same way. Like maybe I would like Malibu Rising more than Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Who knows? Basically, I just really like Taylor Jenkins Reid, so. I then had as number 11 on the list, Yellowface by R F Kuang. I did not get to this, but I also, I think in my video I made halfway through the year, I fully admitted I was like, I'm not getting to this year because I had put Babel on my 23 books in 2023 list, and for whatever reason, I want to read Babel before I read Yellowface. I just kind of weirdly want to read R F Kuang's writing in release order for some unknown reason. I don't know why I decided that. My brain decided that. That's what my brain did. And I haven't read Babel yet, so I definitely didn't get to Yellowface. 12 on the list was Daisy Jones and the Six. I didn't even realize I put this on the list because I read Daisy Jones and the Six so long ago, really close to the beginning of the year. I got it as a Christmas gift at the end of 2023, and I was really excited for it, so I read Daisy Jones and the Six right away. So I had already read that by the halfway point of the year, one of the few that I actually managed to read. Number 13 was Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister, which I have read. I read it, really liked it. I'm a fan of Gillian McAllister's writing. Okay, I'm so excited for her release this year. The premise of that book sounds so amazing. I don't even remember what the title is now. It's escaping my brain, but it's this woman, she finds out that there's a heist at a bank, but then the person who's holding up the bank is her husband. I feel I explained it really bad. Obviously the synopsis that they're giving for the book is actually way better than what I just said, but I read it and I was there's no way I'm not reading this book because it sounds so good. And I also love the way Gillian McAllister does her reveals and her twists in her mystery writing. So it's a must. But I did read Just Another Missing Person this year and really enjoyed it. Not as much as I loved Wrong Place, Wrong Time, because Wrong Place, Wrong Time was just amazing for me. I was obsessed with that book and I just tell everybody to read it. But yeah, I also really liked Just Another Missing Person though. Okay, so 14 on my list was Murder in the Family by Cara Hunter, which I had already read by the midway point in the year. I read this book in March and it is the reason for why this is still on my wall. I just don't have the heart to take it down, okay? If you want to check out the murder board video, please check out the murder board video. It's kind of my first really long video project I did that I'm really proud of, so please go watch me try and solve a murder. I swear you'll have fun. I promise you'll really like it. So the next on the list, I put The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the first book in her series, The Naturals. This one is okay, I'm on the fence about if I even want to read this book because I have been moving away from YA, but I also now am kind of in the mood to read some YA, so maybe I want to add it back onto the list. And I said, I read The Inheritance Games and I really liked it, and I've heard really good things about The Naturals, so I feel maybe I'll still try to get to it. It's just not a super high priority book, and most of 2024 I was oh, I'm just not in the mood to read that, and always just picked other books on my TBR over this one to read. There's also the whole point of the fact that I just wasn't really in the mood to start a new YA mystery series in 2024. I was already up to my eyeballs in the middle of romance series that I started without realizing I started them, and then was panicking about how many romance series I started. So 2024 just didn't feel the time to be doing that. I then, as number 16 on the list, have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I did not read this book in 2024. However, I did buy this book at the end of 2024. It was on sale and I was getting bonus points. I had no self-control. So I finally got it and I'm actually kind of really excited to read it. I haven't read any Sarah J. Maas in a really long time. I haven't read Crescent City like at all. I haven't read any of them just because I feel like the general reviews I've been seeing is like the first book was amazing and the second book was like and then the third book was like no. So I haven't been like wanting to dive into that because it's like those are also ginormous books. Like those are bricks. Like I could build a house with the Crescent City books, okay? And I don't really know if I'm like emotionally prepared for that for a book that I end up might not liking. But I have read all of A Court of Thorns and Roses and I've been meaning to read Throne of Glass for like little years. I think I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, like the first book, back in 2019, 2020-ish, I want to say. And it like kind of like jump-started my getting into reading again at that point. And then once I was like a few books into that series, like I was already like, oh, I want to read Throne of Glass. Like I've been wanting to read Throne of Glass for like 5 years and I haven't read Throne of Glass yet. This is the year I'm finally gonna do it. So I actually think I might make like a reading vlog to kind of like document like reading Throne of Glass for the first time kind of thing, because I am now getting pretty excited for it again. And you know, I feel like it does have really solid reviews as a series. Although I didn't read it in 2024, it is going to be getting read. It is going to get read. I then had as number 17, Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I did not read this in 2024. Did not happen in 2024. However, I did read this as my first book in 2025. I'm just counting it as read because it is read. It was read before I reviewed this list. Okay, did I read it in the year I said I was going to? No, but I read it like a week later. So it's like if you round it out, I read it in 2024. Okay, if you round to the closest year, it's 2024 and not 2025 because I read it at the beginning. Just trust me. Just believe what I'm saying. I then had Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, the first book in her Alex Stern series. Have not read this. Did not read this in 2024. This is another one I'm now like on the fence on about if I want to read it or not. I think I still do. It's just like very low on like the TBR list. I don't own the book. If I was going to read it, I'd read it through Libby. And in order for like a Libby loan to line up with me not currently reading a book and in the mood to read this book, like the chances are kind of low. So at some point I'm gonna have to just really think like and plan, do I want to read this book? When do I want to read it? And like make the time to read it, you know? Like that's the only way it's going to get done. As number 19 on the list, I had Flawless by Elsie Silver, which is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. I definitely read this book. I read this book, then I read 2 more books in Chestnut Springs, then I read all of Gold Rush Ranch, all in 2024. Actually, that's a lie. I just read A False Start at the beginning of 2025. But instead of reading one Elsie Silver book in 2024, I read 6 of them. I then had Twisted Love by Anna Huang on this list, which I did read. This was the last book I read in 2024. And I'm going to be honest with you, this was a bad book. It was a bad book. I just don't think it was written well. That said, I could not put it down. It was so entertaining. And the only problem with that is that I feel like it was written to not be a funny book. Like it was supposed to be a very serious book that you take seriously. But it was just like so absurd. And the plot was so insane that I just found it really funny. So I was like highly entertained and I really liked that, but I don't think I liked it the way the author wants me to like it. And like weirdly enough, I want to read the next book in the series too. So like what's wrong with me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I then had Behind the Net on this list by Stephanie Archer, and I did not get to this book. I just like kind of was like, wow, I feel like I've reached my quota for the time being on hockey romance, so I just like was not wanting to pick up another hockey romance. I instead obviously was reading about cowboys. Just like it's kind of left my radar. I like when I put it on this list, I was like super excited for it. It's also, I don't know about now, but at the time, like the beginning of 2024, I didn't have access to it on Libby. So like if I wanted to read the book, I would have had to buy it. And I was like, I don't really know if I want to buy the book. I don't know if I'm going to like the book at like a I want to buy it kind of level. So that also makes it like a little difficult because it's like, I wish I could read this for free. If it's more popular, like maybe now it is available on Libby, I could have another look, see if it is there. Because if so, then like I feel like I would definitely give it a try. Then number 22 on the list is Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I did read. I read this in August of 2024 and really liked it. I'm an Emily Henry fan now. I've read Beach Read. I also read Funny Story last year, and I've now pre-ordered her new book. I'm a sucker to pre-order stuff, guys. Like, I pre-ordered like 4 books at like the beginning of January for this year because I was just like, I have to have them. Back to the list. 23 on the list was Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. This was one of the books that I had read by the halfway point of the year, so it was already ticked off. Also a huge Carley Fortune fan. One of the books I pre-ordered for this year is her new book coming out, which is One Golden Summer? Something like that. It's Charlie's story from, like, it's like Every Summer After. There's a character, Charlie. It's the brother of Sam. And so her new release is Charlie's story, and so I'm like really excited to read that. And then the final book I put on my 24 books in 2024 was Mile High by Liz Tomford, and this is like her first book in the Windy City series. Did not get to this, did not read it. This is kind of like similar to Behind the Net, where it's a book that's difficult for me to find free, and so if I wanted to read it, I'd have to buy it, and I don't necessarily know if I want to purchase this book, which just means I don't read the book because I don't have the book to read. Makes things difficult. It's hard to read books when you don't have them. This is my conclusion for this whole video. So like those were the 24 books. And I actually feel now, like going through this, I actually feel like I did a very good job. I read 17 of the 24 books. And I have to say, like, that's really great considering, like, I think my 23 books in 2023, I don't even think I read half of them in 2023. My goal kind of was to read at least over half, and I did that. I have 7 books left to read from this list, and I think, like, I'm gonna read Throne of Glass super soon, so that's basically 6 left on this list. I have like 3 that'll be pretty difficult for me to accomplish reading: Mile High, Behind the Net, and then also Yellowface, just because I've made this caveat for myself that I need to read Babel before I read Yellowface. And then Behind the Net and Mile High, like I said, it's like a little harder for me to access the books to be able to read them. But I think like the other 4 books on this list, I should very easily be able to complete in 2025, which is good because I did in my reading goals for the year video mention how I wanted to try and finish all of my yearly TBRs in 2025, which means I wanted to finish my 25 books in 2025 on top of finishing the books I put on my 23 books in 2023 and my 24 books in 2024. I think I now have 7 books left on this list, and then I have 3. I could just look at it. I have the list on here too. So I have 10 books left total between 2023 and 2024 to add onto my 25 books in 2025. So that means I have 35 books of yearly TBR books that I'm trying to read this year, which based off of my reading goal is like over half of the books I want to read. Yeah, don't know how I'm going to accomplish that, but girl, I'm going to try. I'm going to attempt it. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try my little hardest. I'm actually going to try and focus on reading my actual TBRs this year. I think I'll probably make some more like reading books I was supposed to read last year, videos for reading the 7 books that I have left on my 24 books in 2024. And, you know, we'll just see how it goes. I'll do my little bestest. I kind of feel like 2025 might be the last year that I do the like 25 books in 2025. Like, I don't think I'm gonna make it 26 books in 2026. 25 feels like a good place to end it, and if I don't end it now, like, I'm gonna be stuck in this forever. And also, like, once I start getting over 25 books as a yearly TBR list, it just like doesn't feel like I'm leaving myself as much room for just like mood reads and other reads that come across, you know, my radar throughout the year based off of just like how much reading I do. Last year I read 60 books. I'm kind of expecting to read 60 books again this year. I don't want 50% or more of my reading to be like this basically assigned reading list I made for myself in the year. So I think that 2025 will be the last year I make a yearly TBR, at least in the format of like 25 books in 2025 or whatever. Like, maybe I'll make like a top 10 books I want to read in this year kind of thing for next year, but I'm calling it. I'm done with the number of books equal to the yearly TBR. If you see me trying to make a 26 books in 2026 list, call me out, because I need to not do that. yeah, that's this video. I actually feel very accomplished. I actually did way better than I thought, so I'm happy. Like, I was really like, this is either gonna make my day or ruin my day going through this list, you know? I'm glad that it like made my day instead of ruining it. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like, give it a little thumbs up. If you happen to like me, consider subscribing. I'd be happy to have you. Do let me know down below, do you make yearly TBRs, and how did you do with accomplishing it if you do make them? I tend to make lists and then forget I made lists, so that makes it hard for me to accomplish them. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Bye-bye.